All right, welcome to the Detroit Lions News Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Chapp, along with my co-host, James. We got a lot to talk about, James, because, when we were going to do the podcast today, we didn't think we'd be talking about a significant injury to a significant player on this Detroit Lions team. And, I got to say, perusing Twitter, listening to Anderson on 97.1 Ticket and Mark Ryan talk about this situation, it made me lose brain cells. And let me explain for the people out there that are getting a little bit upset or a little bit, scared that we are going to be losing a center for 8 to 10 weeks, which could be the case, but that's what Ian Rapoport reports. Campbell said he'll miss significant time. This is actually what Dan Campbell said.
Had a wrist injury. He will be out for a significant period of time. All right. He will be back for the season at some point, but it'll be down the road.
So Dan Campbell acts like Cade Mays is going to be in Voltron. And so you turn on, Karsh and Anderson, which Mark Ryan's filling in for Karsh this week. Total brain deads. Anyways, they're talking about Seth McLaughlin, like he's going to be starting for the Detroit Lions week 1, which is hilarious to me. Like, no. And anybody who has the, thinking that Seth McLaughlin is going to be the starting center week 1, you got to take it a little bit step further, because when you look at this Lions roster in terms of the guards and the centers, yes, Seth McLaughlin is on the roster. Cool. He's 24 years old. He's a rookie. It's technically a rookie. He was undrafted because of his Achilles. But you have Ben Bartch who could play center. You have Drew Scruggs who could play center. I know Drew Scruggs is a little bit banged up right now, but he'll be fine. And then you got Mason Miller, who, James can tell you I have no time for Mason Miller. I think he's kind of poop. But everyone's freaking out, and then James, the worst part about it was all these people, oh my God, the Lions are so injury prone. Oh my God, the Lions are so injury prone. If you've ever played football in any capacity in your life, I don't care if you play Little League against 2-year-olds. Playing offensive line, you'll break your wrist pretty often. And, I hear the old guys going, why can't he strap it up and put something on it? Well, it might be his snapping hand. That's kind of what I read into it, because you kind of need a hand to snap. You got to have a hand to grab people, and when you're doing the pull blocks, and you're going to hurt your hand anyways. But I think it's his snapping hand. That's where I think it is. And they said it was just a rip up the, when you rip, the blocker got all his hands on you. You're ripping, and you're like basically using your arm as a weapon to get the arm from, get the hand away from you. So I thought it was just a freak accident. Like, I don't think it's something that you're like, oh my God, this is going to be the worst thing that could ever happen. It could be worse. You could lose your tackle like Detroit, like Carolina did, because of a blood clot in your lung. Or you could lose your defensive end, like Nick Scorton for the Carolina Panthers, because he tore his ACL and he's out for the year. What I'm trying to say is this might be a blessing in disguise that it happened so early, because 4 weeks is up until 4 weeks till the season. You got 4 weeks, and when we look at the schedule, me and you have talked about it, James. This is like the dumbest schedule ever. New Orleans, Buffalo, Jets, Carolina, Cardinals. Okay. 4 weeks in would be 8 weeks. And then if you go to 6 weeks, if you go the whole 10 weeks, that's a bye week. Okay. And if you want to take it a little bit step further and you don't want to play him till week 10, you could do that, because that week 10 would be probably an easy way to get him ramped up and everything. So what I'm trying to say is, I know there's a lot of people that are like very, very scared and, oh my God, we're in it for it again. I think the Lions, unlike last year, can deal with an injury like this. Like, you think about last year, who they have as their backup center? Kingsley Eguakwan. And what happened when Kingsley Eguakwan came in the game? Holy shit. It was terrible. It was terrible. He was, as bad as Graham Glasgow was last year, me and James can both say he was pretty bad. Kingsley was worse. It was worse. And he was, a young player. And so if you think Seth McLaughlin's going to come into this and and be a great player and be a great center. I want what you're smoking because this is not how the league works. You have Drew Scruggs, who's graded out as a better center than a guard. And you have Ben Bartch, who could play center too. Because from what I hear, you don't have a guard issue at left guard anymore. I think that Miles Frazier is taking that guard position by storm. So what do you think, James?
Yeah, I mean, it's it sucks more than anything. I mean, this was the Lions' biggest free agent signing, and many people would say the biggest position of need they needed to fill going into the season. And on one hand, the timing is good because if this happened during the season, now the entire duration of the injury, you're missing games every week. Hopefully, you get him back week 4 or 5, or week, I guess it would be week 7 or whatever it is after the bye. But the timing still is brutal because now, this was basically the first week of pads. So now his new kind of week 1 is a third of the way through the season, and at a point where his opening game could be like the Packers or Vikings, or be great if he gets back sooner than that, but that means he'd be back before the bye, which would, I think, probably be the best case scenario right now. And a spot where offensive line, where it is a lot of about timing and cohesion and really getting to know the players you're playing with. It is concerning to me, but and you throw in Blake Miller too, who we hope is great, but you've documented really well how difficult it is for rookie tackles to be immediately above average or really good. He's might be, I think I pointed this out a couple weeks ago, he might be the only first round tackle taken that actually starts week 1 at tackle. So and it was a super tackle heavy draft, so that just, some of those guys move to guard, some of them it's just you're not going to step in day 1 and be a starter. But so I do worry about that now with the Lions offensive line. At the same time, as you pointed out with the schedule, it is probably, I'm going to guess it is probably their most doable stretch of the season. Obviously the Bills game is, a lot of people would say, might be their hardest game of the year, but then you're playing the Jets, the Saints, even if they're a surprising team and win an expected kind of bad division in the South, they're not some incredible team. And then you're playing, the Cardinals and the Panthers. So, I mean, any of those games, no one's going to be saying, oh, well, they didn't have Cade Mays, they lost to the Jets. That's okay. Like you're still going to be expected to win a lot of these games. So that could end up being good if they do take care of business there. But yeah, it is a bummer that your big free agent signing of the season is losing this valuable time. And we'll see about as someone that you just pointed with about Miles Frazier there at the end. Someone and myself that was concerned about not super high on Christian Mahogany. It would have been a benefit to play with a guy like Cade Mays. Now it is still great that he gets to play next to Penei Sewell or whoever the left guard is. But yeah, it's a bummer overall, but also not a, totally, not a reason to be like, oh, well, the season's over. Hopefully it'll be back, week whatever, the Cardinals game or the Packers game, most likely, I guess, would be the diagnosis at this point. And I guess my last thought on it would be, you did, in my understanding, you did kind of acquire Juice Scruggs for this situation. He has NFL experience at center, not a guy that you really want to have be your starting center, but it's a guy that has experience that can hold it down for, a 4 or 5 week stretch. Hopefully he gets, from my understanding, he should be back really any day now. And, hopefully he can step in and fulfill that role on what is a great offense, because, I'm probably more than anyone the Lions slappy offense guy. Really, you really should still be scoring, 28 plus points per game with this offense, and you're not playing, we'll see. Maybe we'll be wrong, and the Jets and Saints and Cardinals will all make the playoffs, but these aren't like expected to be incredible teams. Like you still should be able to score points, I think, against these teams, and hopefully get Cade Mays back, and he's at 100%, and he in a total positive side of it, like he gets back healthy, and then he couldn't get a more serious injury between then, and you have him good to go for week 5 or week 6.
Well, I think the Saints will be a little bit of an issue. I think they're going to be tough to
I think
start
it
out
could
with.
be good, yeah.
Yeah. So, but you look at the
second in odds even in their division behind the Bucks. Even
because I think Tyler Shuck is. I think Tyler Shuck is going to take a step up too. That's the thing. Could. Yeah, and the Jets, they're not going to be good. We know that. They're trying to tank for Arch or whoever the first pick of the draft is. Maybe Dante Moore, Detroit native. Arizona's
trying to because he kind of. Maybe the narrative was wrong, but he almost didn't want to enter the draft this year because he probably would have got picked by the Jets. But.
Probably not. I mean, I don't think Dante Moore was loving going to play for the Jets. Okay, that's just the way it goes. And I mean, the Cardinals are going to be looking for a franchise quarterback because when your quarterback that you might think could start is Carson Beck or Jacoby Brissett,